week 4 of the Every Bit Counts challenge. Today I'm processing all of the herbs that I have been accumulating and drying, and some of the products I was doing in yesterday's video, and I'll make up a custom tea blend while I'm at it. Come on down to the countertop today. Here on this towel in front of me I have some basil that's not drying yet. It's going to have to be flipped over and moved. And here on this end of it I have chamomile. I have the jar from chamomile that I started last week. I'm just going to top that up. I have the chive bottle that I was complaining was empty. This is just a piece of paper towel. I can reuse it for more drying. Nothing stuck to it. I've got a piece of paper here. I'm just going to make a cone because I don't have a funnel the right size for this little jar. There we go. Ooh. I have more than I need. Okay, this jar already has a label on it because this is the jar I use on my spice shelf all the time. And I will take these leftovers and I'll put them in a baggie. I could put them in another jar. I do have a jar. Let's put them in a jar. I like to not use plastic longer than necessary. These chives have been drying for about 4 or 5 days. This is one of the times where I will reuse the canning lids. Only for dry goods. It doesn't have to be vacuum sealed. This is chives, and this is August of 23. Last year I bought several cases of canning jars, and some of them have flaws in them. So that's not safe for canning. So I'm going to use that for my dry goods. I have leftover plantain that needs to go. Oh, what have I got? A mess of stuff here. I've got some plantain leaves to shove in here. All my other plantain leaves went in oil. These ones are just going to remain dry. And I can collect more and add to this. Save these for different purposes later. And again, label it. This is mullein blossoms that I just dried. I have more that are in oil. And again, I have another crease in the jar that runs horizontal across the bottom of the jar. And I've marked it so that I don't use it. Let's filter that into the jar. These are elderberry blossoms. I planted 6 trees last year, and only one of them has gotten any growth on it. It's grown hugely tall, and it's grown blossoms, and it's not because there's no other elderberries around. The blossoms have started the little tiniest bit of a green seed, but I doubt that they're going to produce an actual berry. So I've snipped off this last little bit of blossoms, and I'm going to use that in an elderberry in my custom tea blend. I'll pull these off of the stems. It seems these days that elderberry tincture is all the rage, and all elderberry jelly, elderberry syrup. You can even buy it in the pharmacies now. And I remember my mom making elderberry jelly when I was a kid, and that was like back in the 70s, early 80s. My mom was harvesting wild elderberries and making elderberry jelly. She had to call the pectin company and get a recipe from them, and they ended up having to call her back because they didn't have the recipe easily at hand. They had to find it. So this is for my tea blend. I'm going to use elderflower, and I'm going to mark that on the bag so that I know what's in it. If I like it, I can recreate it. or if someone else enjoys it, they will know what is in there that may aggravate them. So there's elderflower. I'm going to grab that chamomile. Okay, elderflower, chamomile, goldenrod leaf, and a week or two ago I put some herbs up in my rafters. This one is lemon balm, and this one is orange mint. I'm just going to take a couple of branches of that off. Oh, that's so lemony. I'm really not a fan of the artificial yellow lollipop flavor that comes from lemon balm. Just not a fan. You give me a package of jujubes, I am going to hand the yellow and the green right back to you. That artificial lemon, bleh. No thank you. So I'm going to put this because it's got great health benefits. It's a relaxer, and it's good for tummy, good for anxiety. I'm going to put that in here as well. But the flavor I do love is the orange mint. It is like bergamot in the Earl Grey tea. So I will take some of that. We know the properties of mint are good for your digestion and tummy troubles. So I'll take some of that. Take a little more. And I will use that to overpower that lemon balm flavor. And to give me the nutrients of the mint. And as we always have to say in any video where we're using herbs is please do your own research and watch your own medical conditions and and cross inferences with your any medications you might be taking. So that, oh, that smells so amazing. This is a tea I just hope to use up in the next few days. If I want more, I can make more, but this was to get those elderflowers used up. We know that elderberry and elderflower are immune boosters. Let's get this down here and label this. So there we have it. That's my custom tea blend. I'll mix that all up thoroughly and enjoy a cup of tea later on. I don't want it right now. It's too early in the day. I don't need a relaxant right now. I'll be napping. Another project I was working on recently was dehydrating cherry tomatoes. I've got them here now. They're dried. Let's put them in this jar. I'm going to fill the jar with oil. That's a quart. That's a lot of oil. And this last tray is onions. As we pour the oil in, the onions will settle through the bottom of that. Oh, I made another mess. I'm good at making messes. Okay, so let's fill that up with oil. At this point, it's only tomatoes and onions. We certainly can add more spices if we want to. Garlic, oregano, thyme, peppers. Dehydrated peppers would be amazing in this. Like everything else, olive oil has gone up in price. I have a wooden spoon laying here. Let's use the handle of that wooden spoon to stir that around. Make sure there's no air bubbles down in the bottom. Now we'll let that sit for a bit and we can start consuming those in a few days. It has been a busy summer full of visitors on the homestead. While I had visitors just a few days ago, we got into a project that I didn't really want to set the camera up for. So here we go. All those herbs I hung in the beginning of the month, we took them off of their stems and we bagged them up. So I have my orange mint, my lemon balm, my spearmint, and my peppermint. 4 big bags of herbs to go in my pantry. I would prefer to put them in a canning jar, but right now my canning jars are a little limited. I need to get some more jars. I'm saving my glass jars for actual projects that need to be in glass, the pressure canning and water bath canning, liquid products. Until I get a few spares, they're fine in the plastic bag. This little patch here is lemon thyme. I didn't plant it, but you sure can tell what it is. The mint beside it, I don't know what that is. It's just some kind of random mint. This one, however, I haven't harvested this. I didn't harvest this last year. And I'm going to make sure I harvest a bunch of it this year because it smells amazing. I just think that garlic lime chicken would be fantastic with the lemon thyme in it. And I'm going to be making up some seasoning here shortly. Today I went out and harvested some thyme. Tick, 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 tick. Lemon thyme and garden thyme. So I'm going to put those in the dehydrator, come down to the countertop and join me for that. Straight away I want to do the lemon thyme. I'm going to, when they're dehydrated, they're going to look exactly the same. So I'm going to write lemon on the sheets. This will be quite simple. I'm just going to remove the debris that's in there, and I'm going to dry them on their stems. When they're dried, I will just brush them in my hands and the leaves will fall right off. You can fill this up, because the leaves are so tiny, you can fill the sheets up pretty full. Oh, there's one that was not really what it's supposed to be. I think that's full enough for one tray. Although it's not really necessary, I'm going to write regular thyme on this one so that I can clearly tell them apart. I think I've got a bit of work to do. This is the corn we harvested today from the garden on the hill. I'm going to be making a corn salsa. This is a Bernardin salsa mix. It's a dehydrated mix of all the different spices and peppers and onions and stuff. You have to mix it with your tomatoes. So I have to shuck this corn. I'm sitting out here getting ready to shuck the corn, and I'm hearing something in the trees, and I'm not, like, what is it? I can't tell what that is. There are birds up there knocking the acorns off. This tree is loaded with acorns. If I'm so inclined, I can get myself an acorn harvest. I've struck cornfield gold. Look at this. I have corn smut growing on my cobs of corn. Just this one so far. It's considered a delicacy, but it's a fungus, and I'm allergic to mushrooms and funguses. It's going to the chickens. My recipe calls for about 10 medium cobs of corn. I don't have enough. I'll have to compromise by taking a jar off my pantry shelf. Now I'm going to continue with my salsa recipe. I have already chopped and taken the seeds and juice out of 12 cups of tomatoes. I have blanched and then taken the corn off of the cobs. That should be 8 cups of corn. I don't think that looks like 8 cups, so I will use I will use a can of corn if I need to add more. It calls for apple cider vinegar. I have some not organic, and I have a little bit of organic left over. And then I will be using the Bernardin salsa mix, Fiesta salsa mix. I got the recipe I'm using from the Bernardin website. I'll link it down below. The next step, I have to put 1 3/4 cups of cider vinegar in the pot and 1 cup of the salsa mix. This salsa mix is just dried bits and pieces of peppers and onions and all the seasoning. It smells fantastic. I need 1 cup of that. So there's my vinegar, and there's 1 cup of the salsa mix. So you combine the salsa mix and the vinegar, then you add in your corn and your tomatoes. Now you just have to mix this well and bring it to a gentle boil. if you want it to thicken, you let it boil longer, and I may just have to do that. I don't like the idea because it's going to make my tomatoes turn to mush, but I do want it a little thicker. Okay, so it looks like it's heated through. I'm concerned about all the skins in there. As I jar it up, I might peel some skins out. I don't like how liquidy this is. I will use a slotted spoon to fill my jars up so that I can get halfway full with less of the liquid. This should make 5 to 6 jars. Oh well, skins and all. I need to fill these with a 1/2 inch headspace. As in my previous videos, I've had my jars sitting in a sink full of hot tap water so that they're not going to be shocked by the extreme temperature change. I've got my canner warming up. There's a basic rule that sometimes I've forgotten. Hot jars, or hot food, hot jars, hot canner. Or cold food, cold jars, cold canner. Because you don't want to have thermal shock shatter your jars. I did that in one of my videos a little while back. And I also had one that just broke because it was a flawed jar. That's also on video. And like all canning projects, you want to wipe the rim and make sure there's no food particles stuck on there. In this case, there actually is. Sometimes you wipe the rims and there's nothing, but you wipe them anyways just to make sure. And in this case, there is some tomato material on the top. Oh, and a corn silk. Let's not can that. There we go. I've had my rings, or my lids and rings, sitting in warm water. And you screw your lids fingertip tight. And that means I'm not using my whole hand to twist it on there. I'm just using a couple of fingers. That's it. Into the canner they go. The canner's not boiling yet, but it is getting warmed up. And I'm going to have to put more water in it. You want to have over an inch over the top of your jar. 6 jars of salsa. The last of my corn harvest is done. And the start of my tomato harvest is in. So there we go. I'm going to bring that to a boil, and I'm going to water bath those for 20 minutes. That's all there is to it. Oh, I forgot to put vinegar in the water, and there is a chalky film on some of these bottles. You can see it developing as they dry. But there we go. 6 jars of salsa, 6 more cans on my pantry shelf. Yummy, yummy, yummy.